Hey, what is up, you guys? Welcome to the wraparound live reaction Raptors show, where the Toronto Raptors tonight fall 119 to 109 to the Houston Rockets at home. Toronto shoots 43.2% from the field. Houston only shoots 41%. But big difference in rebounding and big difference in second chance points, which the Toronto broadcast acutely noticed. So, a couple high-level takeaways first. Houston came shooting hot. Like, all of their ancillary players were just really, really hot all the way through the game. And, credit to them because they made open shots. And that was a result of our scheming defense on James Harden, which was interesting. We'd aggressively double him. He'd make the right read right out of the double team, and they would make shots. Like, we'd be scrambling over trying to cover those shooters, and we're athletic and we got energy, but we played that way for almost, like, I would say 3.5 quarters, and I think it did wear out our guys. Tough strategy. Like, I love that they went for it. I think it's still a good coaching decision by Nick. I think it was a box and one. So I respect him for trying to implement it, trying to see how far he could take it, if it could disrupt Harden, just take the ball out of his hands. And to a degree it did, but all their role guys just seemed to be clicking. So hats off to them. They made shots. James Harden made the right plays. We were kind of in scramble mode a bit too much in our offense. I thought was the worst part, and I'll talk about that a little bit more too. So at a high level, we competed. We were kind of down between 8 and 10 points all game, which is, it's hard to keep climbing. It's hard to, to beat a team like that when you're always trying to dig yourself out of a hole. And anyway, so they take it 119 to 109. I love the effort from our guys towards the end, but it just wasn't enough. So starting on the first quarter, we saw a lot of bone-crunching screens by Mark. Like, there was a moment where Ben McLemore looked like he was going to be out of the game. He ran into Mark. I think his shoulder almost popped or almost got dislocated, and I thought maybe he'd be out of the game. And I was like, oh, who cares? It's Ben McLemore. It's not like he's done anything with his life. He just got a 10-day contract with the Rockets. I think he was on our roster, and we're like, no, dude's a scrub. And he comes in tonight, and he goes 8 of 9 from 3 or whatever let me check the box score. Whatever he managed to do tonight. He was 8 of 17, so 8 made, so almost 50%, basically Steph Curry numbers out there. So that was a Ben McLemore revenge game. Who would have thought that was coming for all the ex guys that play on the Rockets? And there aren't many, I guess a PJ Tucker revenge game is the only other one there. But so I loved what we came out with. So we had OG starting on Harden, which, I think that he's historically given him problems. So love to see that. We would double him aggressively, like I mentioned, and then we'd shade way, way off of Russell Westbrook, who analytics guys know that he can't shoot from 3, but the league defends him out there anyway, and I guess he makes enough of them that they respect him, but I think he's under 32% or something. So so I like their defensive strategy right off the bat. Again, I got written here, Ben McLemore, just annoying because I think he's a career 32% shooter. So he got hot early, stayed hot. 8 of 17 is no joke. That's a really, really good percentage for the amount of threes he was taking. So credit to him for making shots. I loved Kyle's defensive intensity. I think he was jumping lanes all over the place. That was nice to see. It was really funny seeing how Harden and even the rest of the Rockets would complain about fouls. This guy has been to the line 300 times or something, they were saying, this year. Harden, I'm talking about. And whenever he has the audacity to kind of bark at the refs for being that was a non-call, it's just you have nothing to stand on. You are the king of baiting fouls. Congratulations. But you have brainwashed these refs to call these guys can't touch you. You would not survive in the 90s. I don't think, like, if there were hand checks, yeah, like step back three is fine. Like you'd crush that stuff. But like the amount of fouls that he relies on, I just whatever. Like the game's a game. He's mastered it. But for him to complain about fouls when he gets like these gifts every game, he goes to the line like 15 times a game. So like shut up. I like that I liked our coaching. So yeah, I go back to the scheme that we implemented. I love that we tried it. You're forcing PJ Tucker to play make at the top of the screen, at least in the first quarter. So it was a good call by us. Like I don't think he's used to that Draymond role where, say Steph gets trapped and Draymond always makes the right reads or drives to the basket. I don't think PJ's that used to it. I think probably this year though, when they're doubling him a lot more and Harden's scoring like 40 points a game. So maybe, but it didn't look like he was in his role. Our 3-point D, there's only so much that we could do with it tonight. I didn't love it, but that's what happens when you aggressively trap Harden, and he's always looking to pass first outside of it. Like, not a selfish guy, knows how to orchestrate. Jack Armstrong said it at best in the broadcast tonight. Like, he never tried to force his game, like, didn't think for 1 second that because he hadn't shot the ball in a while that he needed to. And Jack's absolutely right. Like, he made all the right plays, so, yeah, kudos to him again on that. I got a big bone to pick with Serge Ibaka tonight, and the numbers bear it out. Like, if I just even looked at the box score tonight for Serge, and if we take a look here, he was, 4 of 10. Okay, so 40%. Shot a couple threes. Team worst minus 19 on the floor tonight, and to be honest, it showed. And I think Raptors Twitter caught a little bit of that he looked like older. He just looked kind of ancient, and the eye test confirmed that. I think maybe he took too much time off. Maybe he was cooking too much like beef penis. I don't know what the hell happened to him. But if he's not giving you, if he can't contest Clint Capella underneath the basket, he doesn't have a spot on this team. And I know it sounds harsh and again emotional because we lost. Like I don't like losing. Who does? Don't love that. Sometimes he posts up on offense. Like if he's not giving you decent rim protection against their like rebounding Clint Capella, Tristan Thompson types, and I know that there are better athletes than him now. Like he's older, but if he's not, it's too early to say. But I'm just disappointed in Serge. I think tonight he was fine. I think last game, but I don't know what the numbers are. Was not impressed with him, and minus 19 shows. It bears that out. It tells you the whole story. I don't think Serge was very good. They brought in Boucher for a little bit. He played 3 minutes. He should have played way more. Drag. I didn't love Daniel House, like another scrub who somehow like if this whole season is one of regression where like we're the best 3-point shooting team and now there are some guys who we've never heard of that are just lighting it up from beyond the arc when we play them. Last game it was Duncan Robinson. And then this game, it was Daniel House and it was Ben McLemore. And the latter has signed a 10-day contract, and Daniel House, I think, was a G Leaguer 2 years ago. And they are just smoking us. So call it what you want. Call it variance, call it regression. But live by the 3, die by the 3. Tonight we died by it. And that's an interesting one. I think we were forcing I don't have that written here on this first page for the first quarter, but I think as the game went on, we tried to match them. We just tried to match them 3 for 3, and they're a better 3-point shooting team. They take more threes. They're used to it. We're actually a better 3-point shooting team, but I felt like we felt pressured to keep up with them, and that got us into a big hole. We're like, oh, well, if they put up 3, we're going to fall further behind if we're just settling for 2s. Well, that's like the strategy that everybody had against Golden State too. Like that's why Houston developed their system the way they did, was to beat Golden State, because they would always hit 3s. So okay, we have to in order to keep up, we have to hit 3s as well. I don't think it's a good, like mathematically it's a fine formula, but like if you're not going to execute and you're going to take rush 3s, take the 2s. Just take the 2s. Maybe we'll address that. I hope Nick addresses that. Didn't love our defense, so 3-point shooting was one thing. So even though I liked the scheme, it still felt like we were like a hair off. And I think it just goes back to what we were saying last time after the Miami Heat game. It just seemed like we were a hair slow Could be again lack of practice, but now I don't really think you have an excuse. Like you've had a chance at least yesterday to practice and shoot around and to integrate those guys back in the lineup. And maybe it takes some conditioning. They haven't been a lot in the lineup. And in the grand scheme of things, this is important to keep in mind. It is just 2 games in an 82-game season. We'll survive this. We are good in the playoffs. We have the experience. It's just a little bit worrying, the overall trend, what we saw, that the Heat came with a game plan and beat us. And Houston played their game and they beat us. And they both beat us at home. And it's, I don't know, again, in the grand scheme of things, you can't get too taken away. They're just not fun losses. Like, there's something about them that even though it kind of seemed close, it also seemed like we weren't in either game. Like in the Miami game, it seemed like, yeah, we took them in overtime, but we didn't deserve to. I think Nick even said that after the post game. It's like, if we didn't see a box score at the bottom of the screen, he would have thought that we were down by 35 at the end of the fourth. Much like this Rockets game, it like consistently down 10, and we're at home against the Rockets, and like we know what kind of system they're going to play, and we planned for it, and we still lost by 10. Take that for what you will. It's probably good still to look at that box score, so I'm just going over it again because I haven't really gotten a sense of the numbers. But, Marc Gasol was a plus 10. Anunoby was a plus 6. Siakam, not great. I think PJ's a good defender on anybody, so, he gave him a bit of trouble. Liked Kyle's shooting. Fred, I thought was really good despite the negative number. Again, the most glaring one, Serge for sure. Terrence Davis, I'm surprised because he's had some good plus-minus games. And then Norman Powell has had a consistently good run of games. Like, good shooting, too. Just minus 14 is a bit surprising. But I think it's because he had the sole coverage on Harden for a lot of possessions. So you can't blame him too much. Rondé didn't get a lot of play, and Chris Boucher only got 3 minutes. Like, honestly, if Serge is going to play like this, I know he's a vet and he has a tough time to swallow his pride sometimes, but like, damn it, Serge, like if you're going to play like this, you don't deserve to go back to cooking, basically. Take the night off, and it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. There's another thing that I saw with our defense, right? So it was really interesting that the ball, I thought, never actually came back to James Harden once we forced it out of his hands. So that was kind of a neat wrinkle. The Rockets might address this and look, we don't see them in a substantial way unless we meet them in the finals. So it doesn't really affect us, but I wonder if Houston will adapt to that. Like, if teams will see the way that we plan for Harden, and it kind of worked. Like, he wasn't, I know he had 23 points, but I don't think he was a massive plus minus on the night. Okay, plus 7. And that's totally manageable. If he scores 23 in 40 minutes, that's like a DeMar line. 7-11, yeah, he didn't take that many shots, but he was accurate. Westbrook was 7 of 27, so that was the right call. Just let him huck it up, because that's a terrible. Oh my God, that's a bad shooting percentage. That's like just over 25% from the field. Almost another. Oh, he did get a triple double, but honestly, who cares? Yeah. So it was interesting that when we force the ball out of his hands, if he's the initiator, he never gets it back. It's like he never plays off ball. Like, I know he hit some threes off ball late in that fourth quarter, but he never gets the ball back. So he passes it out, they pass, but he never sees it again. And I'll have to go back and rewatch the tapes, and I don't know if it was just our guy on him, like OG shading really, really well, so he never was able to receive a pass. But it didn't look like it didn't feel like they went back to him or looked for him again to restart it. Like, they would pass it out to Rivers or whoever was spotting up, and he would just. So I don't know. I don't know if that is something that the Rockets need to consider. But I think in a playoff series, the numbers kind of bear out, and they're beatable. I think they're beatable. I don't think they're that good of a team. Do they have somebody out? Maybe. They've had to. I think the broadcast said they were suffering some injuries and had to ride them out, but I don't know. The team's not that impressive. They shot well. I think we defended well. I still think it'll take us a little bit of time to get our guys together, because I've seen our defense at a better level than this, and that was kind of a bummer too. We just didn't bring the same defense, but our offense was also just kind of gucky. It just seemed like it was a bit stuck in the mud. That was basically all of the first quarter. That was the big takeaway there. Um, I was surprised to see PJ Tucker hit up some above the break threes. Like I know he's actually been the best. Ooh, actually Nick's coming on. Let's take a look.
back end of that double team, but the inability to close out possessions defensively really sort of got you right.
Yeah, I think we gave up a couple too many, right? I think there's a 20 number there, and it was a couple of crucial ones and things like that. But I don't think we played offense well enough, right? I thought we had open shots. We just didn't shoot it very well, right, on the back end. We had a few careless possessions where they scored in transition, so it really had nothing to do with the double teams or the offensive rebounding, right? I think the transition defense hurt us. They did a good job of capitalizing whenever we turned it over. And I just think we didn't play offense well enough either. As far as, we didn't shoot well enough and we didn't play it well enough either.
Ball not moving, or is it players not moving? What do you?
Yeah, I mean, I could go for a little while. You guys can catch the clip somewhere online. That's kind of what I said at the beginning. It seemed like the offense just wasn't working. Yeah, our defense loved the system. Execution was a bit off, and then yeah, the offense just seemed to kind of be in a bog. So, a couple other things. So in the second quarter, yeah, Tucker was hitting above the break threes. He's actually been the best shooter out of the corners percentage wise. So to see him above the break threes. Is it surprising for him to make them, I guess, isn't as surprising because he's shooting well from three. If that translates, it seems like they're so different, the corners and above the break. I loved seeing Boucher. I wrote that in my notes and I'm laughing at Serge's expense because I think he was benched early in that stint. Like Nurse didn't love what he was seeing out of him, so he gave Boucher some run. I didn't see what happened when Boucher played. It's possible that he got bodied by Capella, who I mean, everyone has pounds on Boucher, but I don't think he just doesn't. He's not like a Harrell that would like body Boucher out of the way. But I didn't watch. I didn't see that part. So full disclosure there. The whistle was not. It didn't seem like it went in our favor. And again, thank God that we have the box score here in front of us. Free throws, they shot 19 and we shot 24, so I actually can't complain about that. It just didn't seem like it went our way when it mattered. Although in the fourth, it seemed to round out. So anyway, that was a second quarter takeaway, so I guess that didn't really stand up as well. Last time after the Miami game, I kind of commented on how it seemed like Siakam's threes seemed to fall short and bounce off front rim quite a bit, which happens when you're tired. And that might still be an explanation, but it's also it seems to be like a hitch in his shot. So the next time you watch him shoot threes, and I think is when there are guys closing out on him because when he's set, it's different. But it seems like he falls backwards to avoid like a possible block on his shot, and instead he falls backwards and it goes against the distance that he needs to sink that shot. I don't know if he'll be able to. I don't know if they'll fix it mid-season. I think for sure that's something that over the summer in LA at Rico Hines they probably notice and they help him out with. I don't know how much they'll be able to fix it in season, but I don't know how stuff like that works. So, and then yeah, I made a note here about that we were trying to keep up with threes, and it just wasn't. It was just a weird feel of the game. Like it felt like we were playing on their terms and not at ours. And I think the broadcasters did mention that. Like they, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, they were playing at their speed. And like we like chaos, we like a little bit of transition. It just seems like we've also gone away from that. Like I don't know if that was like our only means to score, so we really emphasized it when we had those two guys out, Kyle and Serge. But it just seemed like I'm watching a different offense in a way, right? Like Serge post-ups are not my favorite. Like he's the only guy that's still shooting mid-range jump shots. Like I think he probably has the lowest effective field goal percentage on the team. It shows. Like he takes a couple of mid-rangers. That's his money spot. But if he's not, I don't know, if he's not energized, or if he's not healthy, I don't know what his deal is. But minus 19 is not good against the Rockets, and like that's kind of like a stretch five that you need against the Rockets. So I don't know what gives there. I didn't catch most of the third. But I made sure to at least focus while the second was ending, to focus on what was happening to the offense, because I think defense, whatever, like cool scheme. Again, I've talked about it enough, but on the offensive side, it seemed like, and I definitely noted some things here. So Siakam doesn't seem like he takes in rhythm threes. Like, he did have one above the break, and I think he's in his own head, maybe at least this game and last, where like miles of space, and he instead decides to pump fake, drive into traffic, harder shot, defense collapses, and then he shuffles out to OG, who has like Capella draped all over him, and it turns into a Fred desperation three. I think I could be wrong on that, but we saw a lot of Fred desperation threes as well. So like, I don't know, I didn't love that he kind of shied away from the taking the threes, and I don't know how he did on threes individually. Yeah, he was 1 for 7. So maybe he thought that instead, if it's not falling, he's going to try something else, instead of just trying to keep shooting and making up for it. We finished well to the second quarter, so there was hope. I think we were stuck 8. And then, again, I didn't catch much of the third, but they closed it. I think they were tied at one point. We had a terrible 2 for 1 to close it out. I think like we left them too much time on the clock, and I think Freddie shot it up. Didn't get it. They drove back down. I think they got the 2 for 1, where we kind of screwed that up, which is weird because like we've been doing that since Casey. Like we've been doing that to close like almost every quarter that hasn't been like fourth quarters. So that was weird to see for us to like screw that up. It seemed like that was like an off moment for coaching staff and execution wise. I even wrote in my notes like I'm kind of over Ibaka. Like if he's doing post-ups and missing them and not competing for rebounds, I don't know. Like I had a thought run through my mind, like if there's still value for Serge, and I don't think that executives will have watched the last 2 games, but I think it's tough to say because Boucher is not a known commodity, but as listeners of this pod will know that I'm a big fan. Like I just like his hustle, and he brings like an element to the team that's awesome. Like this length that their like opponents aren't used to. With that said, yeah, Serge is a vet, great for the locker room. I think it was weird because before he got injured, people were saying, "Oh, ship Mark over Serge, or if you decided to keep one over the other in the offseason, you decide to keep Mark." Or Serge, rather, because Mark's older and Serge has more viability on the offensive side. If you ask me right now, it's the opposite. And could be totally recency bias, but I didn't love what I saw. And if he's going to play this way, and if he can't get back in shape, like he had a great start to the season. I think he got rested. I think he was he was running off a championship high. Great to see, but that it seemed to have, I don't know, faded. It's still too early to say, but recency bias says that I would ship him before the deadline. Keep Mark, put Boucher in the second off the bench, right? Kyle's not going anywhere, and Fred can they'll make those units work. Kyle can fit around anybody. Serge is kind of like the one guy that you're thinking, yeah, it's nice to have him off the bench. He's a bit of a weapon, but he was a nice piece when we didn't have a bench to start the year, and then he went out, and all of a sudden we have a great bench, and he's not part of it. And now that he's back, I don't know. I'm glad I'm not the one making decisions, but I did not like Serge tonight. What else? So fourth quarter, I was watching most of it. Didn't really jot much down. It seemed like Harden got hurt for a bit in the beginning and then came back out. Like I think he hit his head. Nobody said anything. It could have been like a slight concussion. And the last thing I said was I enjoyed the fight in this team to the very end. Like Lowry kept going at it. Fred kept trying to go at it. Norm, to his credit, hustled his ass off. I don't know who closed. Like it might have been Serge that closed. I'll stop talking about him. But I still like the fight in the team. They went down to it. They just could never close the gap. And I think that part of it was the way that we played defense. I think gassed some of our guys. Pascal's still trying to learn how to be a number one guy. And these are back to the number one, not number one defenses, but you're looking at like the number one defensive individual players at his position, right? You saw Jonathan Isaac, you saw Bam. PJ Tucker's no slouch. Like, he gives up height, but the dude's a tree, and it's well documented. He's guarded Giannis in the playoffs before. So, tough night to lose. Loved the fight, loved the coaching. I would look at juggling. I don't know what I would do. I'd leave it up to Nurse, but I would play more Boucher. So again, so the Raptors fall 119-109 at home. I almost wanted to call it the ACC, but at Scotiabank Place Arena, whatever, Scotiabank Arena. And they take on the Sixers, I think, in 2 days on the road. So this could very easily be 0-3. Not to be a pessimist, I still think it'll be a tough game there. We didn't win these last two, but at the same time, good to get these out of the way, learn from it, learn what lineups work, tinker with it, get guys healthy. We're only 20 games in the season, and the only season that really matters is the postseason. So iron out these kinks. We should be fine. Just sucks to lose. Cheers.